The last time the beef cow herd was this small, John F. Kennedy was still president. For producers who survived the tough drought years, many are focused on starting to rebuild. But that's a long-term process. In our Beef Today report, we take a look at where and how long the expansion might take. Cattle producers are trying to rebuild, but the question is, how long will it take?
I think this one's going to start reasonably slow. It's going to take at least 7 to 8 years to rebuild this cattle herd. And that takes us good returns for the cattle industry, I think at least that 6 to 8 years out into the future.
Hurt says expect the expansion to start in the northern plains, a region where beef cow numbers did not decline over the past 7 years.
We've got a lot of marginal land in that area, and land that now there is a profit incentive in cattle, so we can see more shifting to that area.
He says the main transition is turning that corn back into pasture, something that will take multiple years.
I think over time, this will probably take 3 to 5 years, but I think we will actually hear some talk. It's not a vast amount of land, but there is going to be some land that shifts out of crops now back into pasture land.
Hurt says the western corn belt from Minnesota to Missouri lost 566,000 cows, which is 15% of the national reduction. It has a good chance of rebuilding, but the challenge there is convincing producers to go back to cattle after turning to grain production in the ethanol business.
Many in Iowa and Minnesota have gotten used to just hauling their grain to the ethanol plant. I think it's going to be harder to convince some of those producers to move back into the cattle because they've gotten used to the cash grain production business.
A third area primed for expansion is the southeast. The region took a 21% hit of the nation's total.
What we're going to see there, we think, is now a return of pastures. That area is in good shape with regard to more moisture, good pasture supply. And so we think we will see expansion starting in the southeast.
But the main concern is the southern plains, which accumulated 1.6 million of the decline. Texas alone had the biggest reduction of 1.4 million head, 26% of the nation's total decline. Hurt says the southern plains needs to get out of drought before they can even expand.
Eastern Texas is an example, very important cattle area. We're probably going to see expansion there, but central and western Texas still pretty droughty, probably won't see expansion in those areas.
Expect a slow expansion in the West, too.
California, and we continue to hear the drought stories, the terrible drought in California. Not a lot of the cows, 2% of the nation's beef cows are in California.
Hurt says Missouri is the best state to rebuild because they have the most marginal land. Hurt says in 2007 we were supplying beef with $2 corn, and cheap corn is what it will take for beef producers to reach back up to pre-drought numbers fully again. Of course, $2 corn creates its own set of challenges for grain producers.